Welcome back to episode number, whatever it says on the caption, Institute of Higher Earning Podcast. We have a pretty good friend of mine in from out of town for a conference. He's holding the conference, Bill Allen. He's done, well, pretty much everything in real estate. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that, but then we're going to talk about what life is like after doing that. So you help a bunch of people, you buy a bunch of properties, you make a couple bucks, I guess. I don't want to out the guy or nothing, but he did fly to Dallas on a private plane. So whatever, I didn't do that. So we're going to talk a little bit about what sets it up, but then what you do, I think, once it's set up. Welcome to Dallas.
Thanks for having me. This is exciting.
Absolutely. Well, it's your event. Thanks for letting us crash and do a podcast.
Sure.
That's awesome.
It's pretty rare that I do these in person, though. Like normally I'm on a lot of podcasts, a lot of shows, a lot of channels, but it's all virtual.
Well, we had to hound you.
Yeah,
we had to make it happen.
You get a better connection when you're in person, though, too.
For sure.
Better conversation and all that.
Yeah,
you don't have to worry about the lag. So you were originally, correct me if I'm wrong, Air Force?
Navy.
I can always mess those two up.
It's okay. I'll
I'm
tell you
sorry.
right now, like we're building a show for kids, like we're launching a TV show, and literally, I keep telling them, I'm a Navy pilot. In all the stuff that they put together, keep saying Air Force. It's just, when you think flying, you think Air Force.
What'd you fly?
Although everybody should think of like Top Gun and Navy.
I think of Navy,
like,
but I'm from San Diego.
A naval aviator, right?
I'm from San Diego, so I grew up like Navy and Marines all over the place. So
And
I
that's
don't
where I
even
was
think of
stationed.
Air Force.
My first duty station was in San Diego in Coronado.
I lived in Coronado. It's a great place.
It's beautiful. I lived in Pacific Beach because I couldn't afford Coronado.
Well, I had
Where
inside
do you
hookup.
live in now, though?
I live in Nashville.
Totally different,
Yeah.
right?
I live in
Unlike
Nashville,
now.
too far away from the water. So everywhere I ever lived was really close to the water. I retired after 20 years in the Navy. And about 7 or 8 years ago, we have a middle son who has a heart defect. He did surgery. And so we moved to Nashville. And we thought we were going to be there for 6 months, moved back to Pensacola. But my wife loved it, and we stayed.
Nice. How was the kid?
He's great. He's had 5 open heart surgeries, 6 heart catheters. He's a special needs kid, so he's doesn't like, but he's reached like way more milestones than we ever thought he would. So like we never thought he would walk. We never thought he would talk. We never thought he would eat. For 3.5 years, we fed him through a G tube in his stomach.
Oh, wow.
And now he eats, he walks, he talks. Like you'd probably understand 20% of what he says. I understand about 40.
Yeah, I was
his
about to say,
little
you understand
brother,
his language.
Yeah, his little brother understands like 60%. They have their own little language
That's
together,
awesome.
so it's cool. But he's great. Nashville's great. But I miss the water. I miss the ocean. I'd love to be by the ocean sooner rather than later. So.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same. I grew up in San Diego again, lived in Coronado for a while, and just like the ocean in Dallas is not great. The beach is not great. Surfing's not great. Maybe the wakeboard surfing might be good, but I've been to the lakes like 3 or 4 times, and they don't smell like salt water. It doesn't smell right.
Yeah, that's right.
So 20 years in the Navy is commander, lieutenant commander?
Commander, yeah.
Commander.
Retired as a commander.
Nice, awesome.
Yeah, there's no way I was making captain. 20 years to the day, I was like, I'm out of here. So the last year, I flew for 19 years.
Okay.
And so the last year, I had to fly a desk in Atlanta as a reservist. So I did 15 years of active duty and 5 years in the reserves. It was horrible. It's just, I would show up and we would do nothing.
Take naps.
Yeah, literally nothing. I tried to work on my business. Try to work on my business, but they didn't have internet.
Hurry
It's
up and
like
wait.
concrete dome.
I bet.
How'd you go from that to where you are now, right? So how'd you get into, were you getting into real estate when you were in the Navy passively or anything like that? Or?
For sure, yeah. So I bought my first like true house that I was saying this is going to be a rental home. So I bought a condo in San Diego.
Okay.
It was $385,000 in 2006. I sold it in 2010 for $200,000.
That happened. No one talks about that
For
part
sure.
of real estate.
Yeah, I lost 185 on that, but the government had a program that bailed me out called HAP, Housing Assistance Program, is an Army program. So it was like breaking even. So I got really lucky.
Okay.
But in 2009, so I was losing $700 a month renting that condo out in San Diego. And I just didn't feel like I could sustain that for a long period of time. I knew the real estate market would probably bounce back, but $700 a month, I just couldn't afford that.
People don't understand. San Diego was 40% off in the bottom crash. Everything was 40% off. I was buying houses up in Riverside County for like 75% off.
Yeah, but nobody was willing to buy a house.
Yeah, it was tough to get financing.
So
that's what no one talks about is when something like that happens, liquidity dries up, but it's tough to get money for these things.
It was cash only in my, it was a condo conversion. And so there was litigation against the HOA and the builder. So you couldn't get a loan. So everybody had to buy cash. It drove the prices down in that conversion massively. So I remember talking to my dad at that time saying, we should sell, I got to sell this condo, but we should buy another one. And there was another one I could have bought for $205. And he just was like, I don't think this is a good time to buy real estate, son. And I was like, all right. And so I bought a house in 2009 in Pensacola a year before I sold that because I was moving there. Yeah. And so I moved to Pensacola at the end of 2009, bought a house, and I planned on renting that out when I left. I knew I would only stay there for 2 or 3 years. And so fixed it up, started learning real estate, learning a demo. I was watching a lot of HGTV shows at that time, like Armando Montalongo.
I was going to say Armando.
Yeah, he was a huge one at the time. I think Flip or Flop was like just getting started at that time. It was just, I was watching a lot of those shows. And so I bought the Home Depot 123 orange book, and my uncle was a contractor in Maryland. So I called him, I watched a lot of YouTube, and I literally just like tore up my spare bathroom because I was single. There was nobody living in that bathroom or using it. I just tore it out. I mean, I was like shining the granite up, cutting it myself. Like I did all the work, made it a beautiful, blinged it out, fixed it up, and then rented it out. And then after that, I moved to England. And then after that, when I came back, I bought another rental house in Maryland because I lived in Southern Maryland for a couple of years. Got married, and that was when things changed. I needed to feed 2 people instead of 1. And then we got pregnant quickly after. So now it's 3 mouths with 1 income. And I flipped my first house in 2013, made $43K, and that was half my salary. And so I said, let me see if I can do this again. It took me a year to do it again, but I made $45,000 on the next one. And that's when I joined my first mastermind.
So was that the pivotal? Well, actually, back to the house sport.
Well, hold on real quick, just because I want to talk about that specific deal. Because it's always a fascinating question I like to ask. How do you know, like back then, how many offers you were making to get your first deal?
Yeah.
Like so.
Yeah, not a lot.
No.
So I had a realtor in Maryland, and what I did, that second rental house that I bought, it was a short sale. So there's still some short sales available at that time. And I rented a house in the neighborhood because we were just got married, and I rented a house by the base that was $2,000 a month in rent. And I knew that the house that I was buying would rent for $2,700 a month. Everybody wanted to live in the neighborhood that I bought the house in, and nobody really wanted to kind of live in the area that I was. It wasn't a bad area, but it just was cheaper. Yeah. And it was a closer drive. I could be home for lunch, hang out with my wife, those kind of things, and then go back to work. So we decided to live there, not with all of our other friends and all the other officers in the neighborhood with all the families. We decided to live in an area that was cheaper so we could actually make $700 or $750 more a month and then put that away. And so I was big on investing. I'd save like 60% of my income when I was single and invest it in stocks at that time. And so I bought that house through the realtor, and then I had probably made maybe like an offer a week. Not nearly as much as I started doing when I realized. Once you understand the game, you know that offers are that's the deal. Yeah. You make offers, you get deals.
Oh, for sure.
And so that's why I got that. So I bought that on an auction site. It's Hubzu now, but it was Exome then, I think, or vice versa. Maybe it was Hubzu and now it's Exome. And I remember it distinctly because we were at my wedding in Nashville. So my aunt lived in Nashville, and we were there when I got the email that says, congratulations, your offer's been accepted. I never saw the house. And I had to come up with like $135K, and I had no money. Like I didn't have the money. So I was like, oh crap, what are we gonna do? I gotta buy this house. No, I raised it. I raised the money, but I had probably like 3 or 4 days to close the deal because it was an online auction. And I just, called some family members, started putting it out there, and was able to raise the capital to do the deal in cash. And I mean, it took me 6 months to fix it up and sell it. And honestly, when I did the math,
that's still pretty quick. That's not bad, actually. That's not bad.
Yeah, and that was a time where people don't realize, like right now, we're just kind of transitioning the market a little bit, and like houses don't go under contract like the same day you list them right now, even if it's like 20 days. Mm-hmm. It was like 2 or 3 months then, and I would like lose a buyer and then have to get another one. They'd be asking for closing costs and things like that, all the way from 2013 till about 2018 when I was flipping a ton of houses. So that first one was, but I did the math, I was making like $12 an hour. So I worked my butt off on that house, wired the whole basement myself. When I showed up to it, there was a foot of water in the basement and active termites eating the hardwood floor when you walked in the threshold. So, because I'd never seen it, and I was like, oh crap, I got in way over my head.
And you still made money on it.
I made a lot of money. $43,000 was life-changing for me then,
That's awesome.
And I mean, I still love a $43,000 check, but when you do like almost 1,000 transactions, you start to become numb to some of those kind of numbers, which is kind of sad. So
you start to lose track of the deals.
You also start evaluating your time differently, right? Like, man, I'm not going to be going in that when I walk in that house, I'm going to laugh, and then I'm going to hire a crew and then walk away, right?
Yeah.
Like,
for sure.
It's just your mindset changes too, right? Like my time is more valuable. So yeah, 12 hours an hour when I'm trying to get out of the Navy is awesome. But if I'm going to be transitioning long term,
And just so you know, I wasn't trying to get out of the Navy. So at that time, it was a side hustle. I think people, I did that side hustle for actually like 4 or 5 years. So this was that was 2012 and 2013. Well, 2013, beginning of 2013. And so I made $43K that year. I did a second deal the next year, made $45,000. And it wasn't until that third year that I started like scaling up a business. We did 67 houses the next year in about 8 months, but it was still a side hustle then. And then we did 135 houses the next year. It was still a side hustle then. And I said, I'll keep flying. I'm staying in the Navy as long as I'm having fun. And I never had any intention to get out of the military. It wasn't until I distinctly remember what was happening. Like, so I was flying a T6, a Texan 2, ejection seat, oxygen mask, G suit, 7.5G aircraft, fully aerobatic, and it's a flight instructor down in Pensacola. And I remember taxiing out to go take off for a flight with a student. And at that time, I was buying houses at the auction in Pensacola with a partner. I had a partner in San Diego. He just brought the money, and I did all the work. And we were taxiing out in an ejection seat aircraft. And I was like, there was an auction ending in like 5 minutes that I was bidding on. And it was like, I was sitting there like taxiing out, and I'm like checking my phone on it, like to make sure I win this auction.
That's hilarious.
And I mean, there were a couple of airplanes that the hold short in front of me and some coming into land. So I was like, I probably have 5 minutes. I'm going to have to make sure I win this auction.
You can't slow play. You can't say, hey, wait, guys.
Yeah,
man,
like we can't take off. We can't take off.
Hold
like,
on.
because I mean, yeah, it's definitely not. But in that moment, I was like, you know what? This is starting to get unsafe. I'm thinking about real estate more than I'm thinking about flying. And I don't know that I've ever told that story before, but I remember sitting there going, I need to start thinking about what my exit plan could potentially be, because I was just like totally addicted to the game of real estate then. And it started to eclipse my love and joy for flying and all that stuff. And I said, you know what, this could get dangerous. I could get hurt. This is unsafe. I need to put some barriers in place. And I did for that was the time where, you know, we found out we were having James, moved up to Nashville. And then I went part-time. I left active duty about a year after James was born and went into the reserves. And I kept flying in the reserves for the next 4 years. And that was 5 days a month. What's that?
Now you get the both. I can't talk. Now you get the best of both worlds, right? You get to fly and do real estate.
For sure, yeah. And it was cool, like flying for the military. You mentioned I flew down here. It's my plane. I got to pay for the fuel. I got to pay for the maintenance. I got to pay for the hangar. I used to have an airplane like every weekend with a student. I could go wherever I wanted. We've been here quite a few times. I'd go to Tampa. I'd go to San Diego. We could go wherever we want. It was awesome. So, and I didn't have to pay for the gas. That's awesome.
Yeah. So what'd you fly to Dallas on? What's this airplane?
So I have a 2010 TBM 850. It's a gas turbine, single engine prop plane. It flies up to 31,000 feet, does 310 knots. So that's pretty fast and pretty high for anybody who's watching that doesn't know. And what I say in aviation, before this I had a Bonanza 836, so a piston prop plane. Mm-hmm. And it costs about 10 times as much to go about twice as fast. So my Bonanza would go about 150, and it was about, I think I was all into that plane for about 250,000. And this one was 2.7 million. So now if I want to step up to the next speed, we want to go 450, 500 knots. It's going to be, like we talked about, a Gulfstream. Instead of 3 million, it's going to be about 30 million.
Yeah.
So it's challenge. I love the plane because it's a single engine pilot. I can fly my family. I don't have to have a type rating. The insurance is reasonable for me. I have about a little over 4,000 hours, and I have a lot of time in that engine. It's a PT6 engine. The T-34 Charlie that I flew as a flight instructor, I have thousands of hours in that. And the T6, they all have that same engine.
All your licenses should transferred over, or did they make you
have to. So you have to get a civilian license, but it's really easy. You just take a test.
Yeah.
So it's not. I don't have to do any of that other stuff. But I didn't ever get a multi-license, and I didn't ever get a ATP, airline transport pilot license. So the guys that fly for the airlines.
Okay.
A lot of them that flew with me, there was a program where you get your ATP and you just go for a check ride. I kind of wish I did. It would have been nice to have, but I mean, I'm never going to fly for the airlines.
You're probably making more money doing real estate anyway at that point.
Yeah, it's you have it though. It gives you a little bit better, maybe a bit better pricing on insurance and some of those kind of things. But you have to keep it current. So
the current plane is a single engine turboprop. You mentioned a Gulfstream. Which Gulfstream? Because there's a couple of couple stops on the way you usually make, like maybe the Honda Jet, maybe something else.
I had the opportunity to fly in Grant Cardone's Gulfstream as a G650.
Oh,
and
650. Wow.
It was insane. It was just so awesome. That was such a great experience. And I would just jump right to that. I did try to buy a Phenom 300 last year.
Oh, those are relatively affordable compared to a 550 or 650, right?
It was an $8 million contract that I put on it. You could probably get the same plane now for a little over $7 million. Just the market has softened a bit since about a year and a half ago. And my wife I had a plan to do like this. I own milehighmastermind.com. So I wanted to create this, like, we'll fly to events, and you pay this much and we'll go in the back of the aircraft, go to these VIP events and do one of those a month. So I had a business plan for that. I was bringing in a partner. We were going to go 50-50 on it. And like in that, while I was under contract, my wife calls me, and I was at an event on a weekend in Vegas. And my wife was like, you can't keep leaving on the weekends. So we're here on Thursday. I think it's Thursday, right? Yeah. And then, so I go home tomorrow. My event is Friday and Saturday, but I'm going home tomorrow to visit the family for the weekend.
I was I was so shocked and jealous and envious of all of that when I found that out, right? Like, because I was trying to arrange this when you're in town, and I was like, oh, he's coming to his event. And I was like, he's not even staying at his whole event, like, the whole time. Like, so
I hate being gone over the weekend. I totally get it. Like, being gone Saturday, Sunday. I can do Saturday, but I usually dip out like Saturday afternoon if I'm at an event.
We have 3 little kids. They're 9, 7, and 5. Like I said, our middle son has special needs. And we have help with a nanny during the week, but she doesn't work on the weekends. And we found a local like drop-off place now for the little kids, but they're a lot. It's a lot, and it really is stressful. My wife was in Key West for the last week, and I took the kids, and they didn't have school on Friday. They had Saturday and Sunday, and then didn't have school on Monday this last week. And so it was a chore. Even though the nanny was watching them on Friday and Monday, the weekend I was burned out.
Oh, my daughter had a half day on Thursday and Friday off and Monday off.
Monday off.
God damn, kid.
Yeah.
I love him. But I mean, you bring up a good point because, okay, I joined your Mile High Mastermind, pay you a bunch of money, exorbitant amounts of money. I learned a shit ton about real estate and airplanes and cool stuff. And then, I drop out, whatever. And 20 years from now, I say, the Bill Allen guy was pretty cool. He was awesome. But that's kind of it. Versus I spend 18 to 20 to 30 years raising a kid. Which one, for my mind, which one is more impactful? Which one's actually more important?
Yeah, I think it's both. So the challenge that I find with especially people that show up at masterminds and events and they're entrepreneurs, they're building big businesses, is the first thing that they say, everybody shows up and like, this is my why, right? They talk about these whys and they show a picture of their family. And
I've done that.
I think it's all BS actually. So my stance on that is I think that's a part of it. But honestly, if you hitch your wagon to your kids' success, 18 years later, they'll be gone. You'll be sitting there with your wife going, okay, we raised some great kids. What do we do now? If the kid doesn't turn out the way that you expected or you think it's your fault. We don't have manuals. We're just doing the best that we can in the moment. But I feel like if that was true, so this is what I said. I had this group for a couple of years called 8-Figure Entrepreneur. And on the interview process, I said to them, you have $20 million in your bank account. Are you going to stay home, change diapers, take the kids to school, make lunch, and just hang out with your family all day? They were like, no. I was like, wait, what? Because you told me your why is your family, and that's why you're doing everything. But I just gave you $20 million, just showed up in your bank account. Okay, let's make it 100 if that's not enough for you. They're like, no, I would keep building something. Okay, well then that's not really true. Like that's not really your why. I think it's part of it. I think it's important. I think it is a piece of it. But don't show up to the next meeting and say that's why you're doing what you're doing, because it's a lie. It's a bold-faced lie. So
it's their justification.
Sure, but it's also kind of like what everybody thinks they should say. And they haven't done the work to really figure out why they're doing what they're doing. And so if you go deeper than that, there's like a bunch of levels below that of why you're really doing it. It's some sort of influence, some impact, some growth, some contribution, hopefully, to be able to like change something, the world, your industry, your little neighborhood, whatever. But I think they're both important. I don't necessarily think like, flying around with somebody or being in proximity to the right people is it either. It really is the fact that these people are trying to build something that probably lasts a lot longer than them. And that's what the children are a piece of that, right? They're a legacy piece that we can build without us. And then there's a business or a book or something that they can actually leave behind that's going to create a legacy. Like right now, I'm working on this irrevocable trust that I can build for life insurance policies and businesses and tie it all in there so that my kids and their kids and their kids after them can't squander what I built. And, like this Rockefeller structure that they built. Because I want this legacy to live like to the point where if my kids don't turn out the way that I think that they will, or I hope they do, that they can still benefit from some of I'm going to hopefully try to help them financially at least for the whole family, like build something and a legacy that they can't destroy. So
I like that you bring that up for sure, because I think a lot of people, especially in the education space or in the real estate space, up to an entrepreneurial level of, a couple $100,000 a year or something like that, they really do go out there and say, well, it's for the kids, it's for the kids. But then you see them never with the kids, never at the games, never doing the thing. Like, well, just don't lie. Say, no, it's for you. It's because you want to do this, because a piece of it is, a piece of it's obviously taking care of the family and the kids and all this other stuff too. But a piece of it is your ego. A piece of it's like, you know what, I think I'm kind of a bit of a badass. I want to go out here and do this cool stuff that other people are impacted by. And I want to make a difference in some respect, whatever that is. And the more introspection we have on that, I think it's good. So and again, if you're staying home changing diapers, I'm not sure there's a whole lot of virtue to that. And I'm not sure that the kids, even if that is your objective, turn out that much better.
So it's easy, like as a man, for us to say this kind of things. And I think
no offense to my wife.
No.
I change diapers once in a while.
And I don't think, and that's not what I was saying either, because you got a spouse that the challenge that I feel like a female entrepreneur or women or our wives have is they feel like they're supposed to or have to do that. Like my wife is a stay-at-home mom, so she has a lot of guilt when it comes to not being around the kids, like going to Key West for a week and leaving the kids with me. Or my wife's from England, so she leaves and goes home. She went for almost 3 weeks this winter.
Oh, cool.
I was like, go for 3 weeks. Like, we'll be fine.
What part's she from?
She's from about an hour and a half southwest of London, right where Stonehenge is. It's called Amesbury.
Oh, yeah.
And Salisbury is got a cathedral there. So if anybody's done a tour over to the Stonehenge, they've probably seen the Salisbury Cathedral too.
No, it's a really pretty area. My wife's dad is British, grew up in London, and then his dad was in Rugby. And I studied in Oxford for a semester.
Oh, cool.
So it's fun out there. I like it. My dream was like a little manor house in the country somewhere kind of in that vicinity.
Before we built the farm, we talked about that. We were going to buy a house in England and summer there and go there because I'm not living there outside the summer. It's just, it's dreary. It's like Seattle.
I'd go back for like a week for Christmas time when it's cold to get like see it, because there's no like real snow in Dallas. But I would not live there during the November to April.
Yeah, for sure. But I think these women, they have it harder than we do. Like, it's easy for us to leave and be like, okay, like, we're gonna travel. It's just socially acceptable. And I don't carry around a lot of dad guilt that I'm not there. Like from time to time, I definitely, like you said, if I'm in an event for 3 or 4 or 5 days, I'm like, I just really want to go home, just see my kids. But I'll travel once or twice a month, and I'm fine with it. And I know that it really is hard for my wife. And I'm not speaking for all women, but I think that they definitely have that. Like, they were moms before the baby came. I didn't become a dad till my son was born. But I mean, that difference that's exactly it. They have a connection and a bond to the kids that we don't have. And I think they feel, even I know a lot of stay-at-home dads where their wife works, and they don't feel the same way that a mom does of leaving and working and those kind of things. I think they have a different attachment. So that's definitely a challenge. But as far as we go, as far as the like traveling and the masterminds and stuff like that, I agree. I don't think that people need to say it's not for my family, but I think they need to open their eyes to what they're doing and why they're doing it. Because I think it's totally just a kind of a facade. And it's just totally normal. It's like a progression. Like I said that too. The first few years, I was like, that's it. And you have to become like enlightened, get a little wisdom. You have to understand a lot of this stuff.
You have to get punched in the mouth a couple times too, and realize like, oh shit, it's not the end of the world if I lose money on something.
But you got to do some work. You got to do some self-reflection work to understand why you're doing what you're doing. Because I mean, I could retire today, but I'm not going to, because I don't want to. And I also, the second that I became okay with the fact that I'm going to keep working, and the fact when I sat my wife down, I was like, I'm not going to stay home. Like, I don't want to. I'm not just raising kids. Like, my life is not just about raising our family. It's more than that. Like, I'm impacting all these other people's lives, and I want to keep doing that, and that's fulfilling. I think the difference, Tony Robbins talks about the 6 human needs. You've got significance, which is one of the 4 kind of just regular human needs, and then you have contribution. Growth and contribution are like the needs of the spirit. So I had to spend a lot of time trying to figure out if it's about my self-significance or if it was truly about contribution. Because I think that's the struggle that people have. If it is about significance and their the bad ego, not the good side of ego, which is really contribution, then that's where I struggled. And there was a push-pull there for me to be like, am I only doing this so I can have more followers, have more people that talk about me, people that say nice things about me? Or is it really the fact that I want to change an industry, I want to help more people, those kind of things?
Do you think it's an evolutionary process that people should eventually go through and push through? And obviously people get kind of roadblocks probably each step of the way. Or do you think it's maybe some people jump ahead faster than others? How does that work in your perspective?
I'm not sure exactly what you're asking me. Are you saying, are they going from significance to contribution?
Yeah, is that the goal?
I think I think everybody let's see, inherently inside of themselves, everyone is either driven by significance or contribution, probably. Okay. And the right people are driven from contribution in the beginning and probably wondering if it's significance and struggling with that and trying to like have that push-pull. And the wrong people, the people that that probably have a lot of followers but probably shouldn't or something like that, they're just driven by significance from the beginning. Okay. It's the whole adage of like, if you give while you have no money, you're going to give when you have a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And when you don't give, you're real stingy or cheap or you're not, you don't have a lot of stewardship. When you have no money, you're not going to when you have money. And so I think it's the same thing. That's at least my thought on it. There probably is a little bit of push-pull, but if you're asking yourself which one of these it is, you probably are contribution driven.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
Yeah.
You actually have the capacity to ask yourself,
exactly.
Why am I doing this?
The people who are just like, oh yeah, no, that's not me. I'm totally, they're probably more significance driven.
So what does it look like then? So you win the lottery. It's currently at what, $350 million?
Sure.
So that gets deposited in your bank account, minus taxes, you're at 150.
Yeah.
What does that look like then tomorrow?
I'll probably show up doing the same thing that I do now. It would be a lot easier to write the checks that I'm able to write for charity, and probably do more. And then I would literally put it all into apartment buildings. Mm-hmm. I would buy, instead of raising capital as a syndicator, I would just stroke the checks for, right now I'm raising, I gotta raise 15 million for the deal that closes in May, and I gotta raise like another 6 for a deal that closes in April.
So you're cutting out all those guys.
I would just stroke the check.
Yes. You're cutting out all those guys.
Sorry,
those
everybody.
guys.
Yeah, everybody who's currently my investor. I'm sorry, I'm returning your money, and I'm owning 80% of the building.
I think I do the same thing. I'd actually talk to probably less people, and not try to raise money for deals. Yeah,
I definitely do that. What markets are you investing in, or all over?
Yeah, we're primarily focused now on Murfreesboro, Tennessee, which is a suburb of Nashville. We are buying a lot there right now. We'll probably be close to 1,000 units by the end of this year, or actually in May when we close that deal. And then that's pretty much it. I don't do a lot of that work. I am definitely money raiser, capital raiser. I'm on the calls with the team and the staff, mm-hmm. doing investor relations, just staying plugged in with the deal flow, everything that's going on. But I would keep doing that too. Like if I had 350 million, I would work with the same partners. I'd say, hey, I've got a bigger checkbook now, so be more aggressive on some of the deals we can find. And they would still get their percentages and I would take mine. And I would own the majority of the building and let them do the work, because they're awesome.
In the contribution aspect of things, at what point do you think a lot of entrepreneurs go from necessity of hiring people because they just can't physically do as much stuff as they're doing, to actually understanding that, it's actually kind of fun having all these people that are working towards a common goal? Because I've noticed that in our entrepreneurial journey, at some point, even if I got the $300 million check or whatever, it's like, I like the team we have. I like empowering them to do their thing and be good at their thing and training them to do whatever the thing is. So at what point does that kind of click on where it's like, I need to hire someone to do some shit that I don't want to do, versus like, oh, I got these guys that are doing stuff and they're effective. I want to empower them to be better than they were yesterday.
So the people who need to hear the answer to that question because they're doing it on their own have just never had somebody helping them and doing anything for them. The second that you get that, you will make the transition to only wanting that and needing that. Mm-hmm. So it's just, I think everyone feels that way, especially entrepreneurs, business owners, everyone, the second you hire somebody, and it's somebody who's good.
You got to hire the right person.
Decent.
Yeah, you got to hire
It doesn't even have to be the right person. So what I don't want, it doesn't have to be the perfect person. Let's put it that way. even if it's just somebody who's like 60 or 70% of you, that's doing a little bit of what you're doing, but they're doing it 100% of the time at 100% of their capacity and ability, it's better than you doing it like 10% of the time.
Tommy, can we put that
we literally-
right next to what I said yesterday? Just right up there.
He
next to
literally said that quote word for word almost, right?
It's exactly right. Because, I mean, if people literally are asking, right now they're asking like, oh, I'm just going to keep doing it myself. Well, the thing is like, that's out of scarcity, that's out of fear, that's out of like risk. They think it's risky. Because that's how I felt. Like, I remember the first person I hired, I was like, totally scared.
You did the work on your first
Did
house.
it all.
Like,
I did almost
I come
all
from
of it.
a construction background, the same thing. It's like, I know how to do tile. I kind of like doing granite.
I didn't know how
I'm
to
a
do
shitty
tile,
painter. But it's like, I kind of like that stuff, but I'm not good at any of it.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't be doing any of it.
I mean, the question came to like, at what point in your time do you realize that you enjoy that? And I think it should be as early as possible. Like, if you figure out, it's just because you could do so much more than you're doing right now just with a little bit of help. And I mean, take that from, you're already working with someone, you're a title agent, you're a contractor, you're anybody who's a 1099 worker or somebody that you pay. So the person that cleans your house, the guy who mows your lawn, like, all those people work for you. You know, you don't have to manage them day to day. And the fear is once they become W-2 employees or full-time for you, then you have to deal with them, manage them, all that stuff. But like, all these people are team members. So at the beginning, it might be contractors, it might be 1099 employees. But if you look at all those third parties that you work with, like, if their business isn't running well, neither's yours. So you're already picking the right people. You're already learning that skill set. So now it's just about taking a leap and saying, all right, I'm going to bring somebody in to work full time. In the beginning, all I would do is just write down all the things that you're doing. And then, so my favorite exercise is write down everything that you're doing and then calculate all the money that you made in the last 12 months. So investments, income, stocks, it doesn't matter. Your W-2 job, if you're running a business, how much you brought home, all that. And then the amount of hours that you worked. Figure out your dollar per hour. So take the amount of money you made in the last 12 months, divide by the approximate amount of time that you worked. What's your dollar per hour? Mine was $55 an hour when I did this exercise in the very beginning, 2015. And then I said, well, I could pay a guy $20 an hour to mow my grass. I can pay somebody, and I was still going to Home Depot to get lock boxes and put them on. I was still calling to set up utilities and things like that. So I had two options. I could either work less and make the same amount of money that I was making, and I make more dollars per hour, or I could work the same amount of time, make more money, and increase my dollar per hour. So my whole goal was just to go from $55 an hour to $100. And now my whole goal is to go to $10,000 an hour. I'll send you guys the bill for this interview afterwards. But I really, like, that's the game. And so then I hired somebody who I took all the things that I was doing and I just took like 30% of those tasks and I said, hey, these are yours now. And I'm going to pay her. I paid her like $500 a week, which is like $12 an hour for 40 hours. So $500 a week. And you set up the utilities, you put the lock boxes on, you drive to Lowe's, you drive to Home Depot, you do this. If I needed anything, you do it. You set up the CRM, do all those kind of things. And I just started offloading tasks to her. And then sure enough, now I can focus on making offers, doing those kind of things. It changed the game.
Do you think
People get so hung up in the beginning because that $500 a week might be whatever, 30 grand, right? For a year for salary. So they think they have to come up with that annual salary out the bat. And you're like, no, maybe 6 or, 2-3 months, right? You want to have reserves, but you don't have to, you're not paying her or him or her, that employee, their annual salary up front, right? So you do have some leeway into that too.
Exactly right. As an example, right now, I have a software developer that was working for a company of mine, and we built a live event registration software company recently. And I had to move that software developer from that company over to this one. And my partner was like, we can't afford that right now. I was like, what are you talking? Like, I don't care. Like, let's move him over, and then we have to make enough money to afford it. So we only need 1 month. Mm-hmm. And then that month, we need to bring in enough revenue to get the next month, and the next month, and the next month. And if we can't afford it, then we can't afford to keep him on. Like, he's not making us more money. Everybody should make us, like, in my opinion, 5 times their salary to the company.
Oh, for sure.
And it's top line revenue, okay? Yeah. And if you can't point to what they're doing to make you more money, then you're overloaded, you're top heavy. But yes, I love that concept. I don't need the annual salary. I'd say have 3 months and a plan to get further.
Yeah, I was going to say 3 months.
After 30 days, if they're not doing their job and they're not making the company more money, they're gone.
Yeah.
Like, fire them after 30 days. And then, you wouldn't put out $2,000 in 4 weeks to figure out how to offload all of this stuff anyway. Like, even if they were just doing, like I said, 60% of you and you get 2 or 3 of those people, now you got like 2 of you plus you in the company. 3 yous together with 4 or 5 people is way more powerful than just you. And so, but then you have to start sharpening a different skill set.
Yeah.
Leadership and management. And management I hate, leadership I love. So leadership and management, 2 very different things. Management, holding people accountable, doing the day-to-day, the meetings, those kind of things. Leadership, casting vision, inspiring people, driving them. When I started my business, I was a great leader and a crappy manager. And so I just led my way through the path of how we built our company. And it wasn't until I brought my COO in that we got actual management in the company. But we built a company that was doing $2.5 million a year, just pure leadership. And leadership is more powerful than management, in my opinion. There, I said it. Like, if you don't have leadership in your company, you're not going anywhere. Yeah. You can't manage your people to greatness.
Yeah, you can't push them. You have to be able to drag them almost.
And so now if you have both, great. But I'll tell you what, good leadership will take you really, really far. And a lot of the people that I see that have trouble hiring, they're not good leaders.
I think a lot of people that we've noticed at the kind of mid-level, like doing a lot of flips, a lot of wholesale, something like that, they get stuck in the ops side. They get stuck in the management side, which is fundamentally a management aspect. And they get nitty-gritty with the CRM. They get nitty-gritty with how many offers did he make, whatever. And I think the leader is more concerned with hitting the higher KPIs. Okay, what's the direction of the company? Are we going the right direction? Do we have the right people in the right seats? Are they doing more or less the right thing? I almost think that from a leadership thing, for me anyway, and I'm probably not as good at it as I should be, you almost overlook stuff sometimes because that's like the manager's job to not overlook it. As the leader, it's like, you know what? He's just having an off day. Like, I'm not going to bust his balls about that, but maybe the manager's going to bust the balls about that, versus the people that try to build a company from more of an ops perspective definitely get kind of bogged down in still trying to do the ops stuff, the day-to-day stuff, and lack the vision to actually take the company to the next level.
Yeah, I mean, people need vision, they need path, they need leadership. Even the entry-level bean counter, low-level worker, $30,000 employee, janitor of the high school, it doesn't matter. Like, if they don't see the direction of where the company is going and the path, like, they're not going to show up to work excited to do what they do, like interested in the mission. And they're constantly stuck in the day-to-day ops. Like, they can't see it, so you've got to cast it for them.
How does a leader not get in the loop, and I've seen it a bunch of times, of hiring someone in an ops position, in a COO kind of position, and then blaming them for failures on the leadership side?
Well, extreme ownership is one of my core values. And it's the thing that, like, if you're ever in a position where something's off with an employee and you can't figure out what it is, it's probably because they're not taking responsibility for their own actions. I would argue that's not a real leader. If you are pointing the finger at somebody else, you hired that person, you trained that person, you onboard that person, or you hired that person, didn't train that person, didn't onboard that person, and just expecting them to show up and do something for you. So, I mean, I would argue that it's impossible really to be a good leader and to point the finger at your COO or your manager. Like, but if that's the case, like, literally you got to look in the mirror and say, like, it doesn't matter who we hire. I hired them. I'm responsible for everything in the company. Anything in the company happens is my fault. Like, if it's good, if it's bad, usually I try to give the credit and take the blame, but it's my fault. I didn't build out the process. I didn't look. Like, recently, last year, we had a down year as a coaching company last year. Like, my company didn't have the best, it had the worst year forever since I've owned it, since I've been working for it, since I've been a part of it. And it was 100% my fault. Like, I made some critical mistakes, decisions, growth opportunities that didn't hit. What I thought was going to happen didn't happen. A lot of things changed, and, like, I wasn't looking at my COO going, man, you should have been watching the books closer. You should have done this. It's like, dude, what happened? Like, let's sit down, let's figure it out. And both of us are saying it's my fault. Like, if everybody in the company is pointing at themselves, that is a great, great, great culture to be in.
Yeah, I think that's definitely key too.
And I would read the book Extreme Ownership. Like, if anybody's thinking about that, like, this is my number one book. If a human being reads no book on the planet other than that one and the Bible, we take the Bible out of it, like, I definitely think they should read that. But Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin is one of the best books on the planet for leadership and ownership and stewardship, and even from an employee standpoint. I have my entire team read it. Nice. From the top to the bottom, because there's leading up the chain of command that they talked about from the bottom up. That's really important. When they're on the, as a general, you don't know what's happening on the battlefield most times. So
When you're talking to newer investors or people wanting to get into real estate, right? I think masterminds are a huge source of knowledge, everything, right? It's such a key that people need to be a part of. So the question is, when do you think an investor should join a mastermind, right? Like when in their journey? Like, because obviously not right away, because obviously maybe they're going to jump into the wrong mastermind, maybe they don't need it yet, right?
They should do it right away.
At what point do you recommend people to get mentorship or coaching and all that stuff, right?
immediately.
Immediately?
Yeah. So do something. So look, my story I got interested in real estate in like 2008, 2009. That's when I bought my first real like rental house. I was starting to watch the TV shows, all that stuff. I was on Bigger Pockets all the time. I was actually giving advice on there. If you go back, I probably have thousands of posts on there by now. I was giving advice when I should not have been giving advice. And so there's a lot of free places that you can go.
That doesn't happen at all anymore.
Oh,
It's totally cleaned up.
Every second. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, the internet, it doesn't matter. There's so much misinformation out there, and there's so much information now. There was a lot less information then. And so, but I was like freebasing all this information. I was just free. I wanted all the freemium stuff. I was cheap. I didn't want to spend any money. And I probably lost 3 or 4 years just on the internet talking about what I was going to do versus actually doing anything.
Why is that? Because I bumped into the same exact thing. And when I finally started getting out of my own way and joining a mastermind, actually going out and networking from an open-minded perspective, not just I'm amazing perspective, business just kind of went crazy. So why is that? Why do so many people bump into that issue? Is it the cost?
I think there's two things.
Mentality?
One is human nature.
Yeah.
Human nature is if you're telling me to do something, I'm just not going to do it.
Screw that guy. I know more than that guy already. I don't need to follow that guy. That guy's an idiot. Okay, well, that guy's doing 10 times what you're doing. If he's an idiot, what does that make you?
Exactly. And honestly, sometimes the smarter people are, the more they're going to get in their own way.
Fuck them.
We overthink shit all the time.
I mean, your guys' ego are so high that you just called yourself really smart.
I'm not bad. I love not bad.
You didn't.
No, I'm not
you're
so
smart.
bad.
I know that. No.
You're like, yeah, we do that. So, and you're out of here. So I would say, like, that's big,
No,
right?
that's huge. That's a huge thing to get in the way of.
For sure. And we know things. We know things. We've done things. We've been successful in other areas. So we're not willing to say, I don't know something. I'm just going to figure it out. So that figure it out gene is also a problem. So some of the people that I've seen that have come into my mastermind group that have been most successful are the people who are like, I'm self-proclaimed idiot. Like, I don't know anything. I've never done this before. I need help. So I bought your program. And the people who are like come in and they're like, oh, I already know that. And what they do is they only take a little bit of the advice. They take like 50% of what you're telling them and then 50% of their own sauce that they put on and it doesn't work and then they blame
keep
you.
doing their same habits and same everything.
So that's one. I think there's one of like, we get in our own way and we think we can figure it out. And we think it's better to do that than it is to kind of pay for something. And then the second, and bucking the system. I mentioned bucking the system. Like, you know what? Everybody's talking about mastermind. I'm not going to do that. And then there's also a herd mentality of people online saying, don't do that. Like, you're listening to the people that don't have success right now tell you what to do, like family members, friends, colleagues, other people that you actually respect and love that have never paid for anything, are still working a W-2 job, have never done what you want to do, and you're taking advice from the wrong people. And you don't even know that there's a whole nother room of people that if you got around, they would be just like you. And you would be able to dream with them and grow with them and those kind of things.
And what's annoying is when naysayers are right from a certain perspective is all the information out there is available on YouTube, on Facebook, and all this other stuff. But the implementation is, in my experience, what you learn so much more by being surrounded by people that are different levels, higher or lower than you both.
I think more than the implementation, it's the structure of the information. Yeah. It's actually like you have all the puzzle pieces are out there. You just don't know how to put it together.
Yep.
So
you have a roadmap, but you don't even know exactly what city you're trying to get to, and you don't really know where you're at.
For sure.
You sure as heck don't know how to get there.
Yeah, if you don't know where you are and where you want to go, but like we're drowning in information and really starving for wisdom right now. So I think that wisdom is what comes from it. It's the next step. It's the thing to do. Here's an answer to the question right away. And so what I was doing was I was online, I was asking questions, and I'd get all these answers, but there was no real credibility from the people that were answering, and I'd get lots of different answers. So it's all varying things. So what people are doing right now is they're listening to all of these podcasts, they're listening to all this YouTube, and they're listening to 5 different gurus, right? And so if you're listening to 5 different people that all have different strategies and tactics, and maybe different principles actually, different foundational principles too, you're trying to figure out, like you're taking a little bit from here and a little bit from here and a little bit from here. You add all those 3 things together and it comes up with nothing. And so that's the challenge. That's basically where I was. I mean, I wouldn't even buy a book, by the way. I had a library card. I wrote an email to my list one time that said how my library card cost me $1 million.
Hey, didn't he just call me arrogant a second ago?
I have a library card.
I just pointed out what I thought you guys said.
No.
So
He called me dumb.
Well, I call myself a bigger idiot than that guy that's doing 10 times what I'm doing. Because I'm not doing that.
So what happened was, this happened for 5 or 6 years. And then what happens is I have a liability mindset. And so I didn't have an asset mindset. I thought that I knew what I was doing, but when I looked at that first mastermind, so I'd never been to an event, I never paid for a ticket to an event, never even bought a book. Like I would check the book out from the library. Then I'd wait 3 months for that book to be back in that I wanted to get it. And so I didn't even think anything of it because that's just what I've always done. I was classically trained. Like I have a mechanical engineering bachelor's degree and an aeronautical engineering master's degree. So it was like, and then the government paid $1 million for me to go to test pilot school. So like everything has been like higher education, book study, never self-education. It just wasn't my thing. I'd read books and I'd learn that stuff, but I would do it on my own. I didn't even know that there was these things. Like, and anytime I came into a forum, people would say, don't do that. It's a waste. You're going to get ripped off. And so I was kind of brainwashed to that. So then what happened was I was looking at this mastermind, it's $25,000. And I compared that to a Honda. I was driving a Volkswagen Jetta TDI at the time to save gas on a diesel. And I mean, it was like, financial independence, the FIRE movement. I was that guy, like Mr. Money Mustache. I was reading his blog at the time of like, how much can I save to just not spend any money? Like I tried to cut my wife's Starbucks out. I was like, why are you going to Starbucks? $5. I was doing that kind of crap. Doing that kind of crap. I was like, I just give me water everywhere that I go. Not that bottled water. Give me that free water. The stuff from the tap is going to kill me. So all of this stuff and comparing $25,000 to a car. And looking back, that was a liability. I was compared the $25,000 investment to a mastermind to a liability, which is a car. If I buy a $25,000 car, it's going to go down in value. If I invest $25,000 in my future, I have nobody can take the information away from me. And I joined the perfect mastermind for me. Luckily, is I was attracted to a podcast. I was attracted to a group that changed my life, fundamentally changed my life in 2015. That will change my life forever. And so that $25,000 investment was probably the best thing that I could have done. So I think people should at least explore that opportunity from the beginning. Because there's programs, there's a course, there's a class, there's an event, there's a book, there's something. Just invest in yourself. And if and like literally the people that come to my events now, they're so far ahead of me from when I started. Like I wouldn't even go to an event. I was like, I'm not going to this event. It costs money. No way. I gotta travel there. I gotta get a hotel. I gotta do all this stuff. Like, and people are more open to that. And now the challenge is there's so many of them. It's really hard. So I think the next thing that we should probably discuss quickly is how do you pick that right one from the beginning?
That was the next question that I was going to ask is how do you pick the one? Because you need to like, obviously the content, the information, the like solid stuff, but you also need to like the people. Because so many of them, doesn't mean people are necessarily bad or good or whatever. I mean, there are obviously, but you have to like the people in the groups. You want to hang out with them. You have to want to talk about business, talk about life, have core values that are similar in nature.
And a lot of people get sold on marketing too. So how do you
cut through the shiny marketing stuff and get to like, okay, this guy is legit and I like the people.
So I think the first step is don't get so wrapped up in picking the perfect one from the beginning that you don't pick something. So if you could just remove the fact that you're never going to, it's not all going to be 100% exactly what you want it to be or it has to be or those kind of things, because then you'll just get in this kind of loop of never deciding. So what I always tell people is you got to look to the leader or maybe the core group of leaders. It might be one person, it might be a group of people. But if you look to them and you look at their life and what they have and their values and And if you're listening to 5 podcasts, just pick one. Just pick one and listen to it. If you're listening to like 20 YouTube channels on real estate, then just pick one and listen to this. So if you're listening to their YouTube channel, like turn off all the other noise and just listen to that. Because that's the leader that's going to kind of recruit everybody else that's going to come into the programs. And so I look at myself in 7-figure flipping as I'm the lead recruiter. Like I go out and I speak at events, speak from stage, go on podcasts, do those kind of things, this kind of roadshow from time to time. And it's a magnetic attraction of marketing, just like Dan Kennedy talks about. A magnet is going to either attract somebody, or if you turn one of the magnets around, it repulses and repels that other magnet. And so you've got to find someone who has the life that you want, the values that you want to have, because they're going to recruit other people that look like them and walk like them and talk like them. So if you want the guy who's going to be wearing a suit and really expensive watch and drive a Lamborghini and talk about all that stuff, and I don't know, maybe that guy goes to the strip clubs, maybe he doesn't, maybe he cheats on his wife, maybe he doesn't, I don't know. But like whatever that flash is, then that's okay. If you want that, just go to that. Like if you want that and you come into my program, you are going to feel out of place. You're going to be like, this is not the place for me, you know? And there's going to be families there. There's going to be a 6-year-old kid sitting there. Like you're not going to hear any curse words at my event. It's just not going to happen. And it's just because it's what I've tried to build. I tell you what, when I was in the military and we're flying and we're in the wardroom, there's a lot of like bad language. I was drinking a lot at that time. I was not the perfect dude. Yeah. I wasn't the perfect guy then. And so, I came into a place, the mastermind that I joined, and it was a bunch of Mormon guys running the mastermind. So there was like no alcohol, there was no cussing, and I was like, this isn't like my military life. And I actually kind of liked it. Like I was like, oh, this is really cool. Like I'm a Christian, but I went in there, I was like, this is the kind of room that I want to be in. This is like the kind of place that I know that my wife would be fine with me traveling to all the time. And the kind of people that I want to be around. And it was a guy who was there emails were hitting my inbox, but he was sitting on the corner with no phone and no computer, totally engaged. And he built a company that runs without him. That's what I wanted. Yeah. He was a father of 3 at the time. I think they have 4 kids now. He was just an unbelievable mentor to me and the perfect person that I could emulate. And he's given me values. He's built my character. I always think like, what would Andy do? What would Justin do? Like, what would my mentors do?
This makes so much sense because I've emailed Bill at 7-figure flipping so much and I've yet to talk to you. Right? Like I've communicated with you directly so much and I know I'm not talking to you, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So that's awesome, right? Like you saw your vision.
But I think the people that are looking for a place to go, when you walk into the place, you'll know it. It's like you walk in and you feel at home. You walk in and you feel like these other people get me. They're like me. And the second that you feel that way, or if you're listening, like I listened to Justin's podcast and I was like, this is my guy. Like he's flipping houses without looking at him. He's doing 150 a year. I remember when he interviewed his assistant, who, by the way, was the woman who came to pick up the case from us just a second ago, who works with me now. It's incredible. Like that, I listened to that and I was like, that's what I want to do. And so when he came up with an opportunity, I joined. And I tell you, if you listen to your gut, if you think it's right, then just go. Like there's a place for everyone. And I know my place isn't for everyone and your place probably isn't for everyone. But if you feel called or like tapped on the shoulder, you feel like, hey, there's a pretty good chance. I feel good about this. This is it's a hypothesis. It's an educated guess. Nothing's ever perfect. You have to take that step when you have an educated guess that is probably going to work out well. And then what I would say, the next step is you go all in. Go all in on their content, go all in on their strategy, go all in on their tactics. And when they tell you to jump, you say how high and you do it. That is the game. And if you just do it without reservation, without thinking that you know everything, or, but on this podcast, I heard something else. And that's what drives me nuts. People pay me a lot of money to join our programs. And then they listen to like 4 other people that not necessarily are competitors to me, but are putting out like conflicting information from what we're trying to teach. And it's like, what are you even paying for? Like you won't be successful with that. You won't be successful doing 40% of the work. Like, can you imagine going to SEAL training and be like, you know what? Like, I know you said to like shoot that way or carry my gun that way. Like you will get kicked out in 5 seconds, right? You don't know. If you just show up and like, I don't know anything, like total clay, mold me, let's go. And that's where people really succeed. And then eventually after a few years, you start you start making your own decisions, you start trying some new things, and then eventually you're going to eclipse your mentor. Potentially, you're going to do bigger things. You're going to grow. Like, my whole goal is to build people that are doing more than me. And if you find the people that you resonate with, that are like have the character and values that you have, and they have, you mentioned the life, like how do you, it's on social media, it's all grand, like, are they real or are they fake? Just try to find out. Like, you can see, usually you can see,
Talk to them.
you can see, you can see what's a bunch of BS, and sometimes you can't. And that's okay. Like, hey, if you make a mistake or join the wrong program, join the wrong training, then just move on. Like,
It's just
don't
another
stop.
education.
Like, don't stop.
No, for sure.
Whether it worked or didn't work, it's that
is the education,
that's success.
right? Like, you just paid money one way or another, as long as you're learning from it, right? Like, don't make the same mistake twice, is what we always say. So
I got people that come into our mastermind and they realize that wholesaling and flipping is not for them. Like, that's the best $15,000 or $25,000 that you could spend.
Oh, it's way cheaper than a bed flip.
Totally, and you can move on faster. You're like, that's not for me. So now you can get into the right vehicle for you faster.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I would say that there's three things that you have to have. You have to believe in the person that's running it, believe in the people, right? And believe in the program, and then you have to believe in yourself. And most of the time, they believe in the person that's running, they believe in the program, they struggle to believe in themselves. And so that's where I would work on, is how do you build belief in yourself?
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. Well, I think we're about out of time.
yeah,
We really appreciate you coming on the podcast. It's awesome to get to talk to you in person for, good job, Alan.
yeah.
You're going to have a great event here in Dallas for the next couple days?
I think so. It's going to be exciting.
How do people get a hold of you?
So I have a personal YouTube channel that I love. I actually fly the TBM 850 around. I have GoPros in the aircraft. We actually just bought an Apple Vision Pro. I bought it last night.
Yeah, I know. I wanted to talk to you about it, but we're kind of running tight.
So I put
Did you try it? Did you
my
fly with it?
passenger today. I'm not flying with it. I would probably get my license revoked, and it's illegal.
Yeah, obviously.
And I'm assuming it's illegal. Like, I could see through it, but I probably, if I crashed, I'd be destroyed.
You'd be
But
that
my
first guy.
my
It would
my
kinda mess up your day,
passenger,
too.
for sure. My passenger next to me, I had her wear it for takeoff and landing today. And so I hope that the video came out well. I'm not sure. She was having some trouble with like syncing and all and stuff. So you have to wear it to be able to do it. So I think over time it's going to evolve. It's going to be really cool. But my goal is that you can sit next to me and actually see what somebody would be seeing
That's
if they're
awesome.
in the cockpit. So I do interviews and stuff like that. So I love that. It's just Bill Allen REI, and pretty much all my socials are the same at Bill Allen REI. So Instagram and TikTok's different or something. I don't know what it is, but.
TikTok is definitely different.
Yeah, it's been fun though. We just had a video go almost to 1 million. That's exciting. So, but yeah, that's probably the best way. 7figureflipping.com is probably another place they could go if they, real estate stuff. But I know you guys do real estate, so if these are your guys, stick with it.
No,
We appreciate it. Thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah.
And thank you all for watching the Institute of Higher Earning podcast. If you guys want more episodes like this, don't forget to subscribe, smash the like button, turn on the notifications, and leave us a comment just for fun. Leave a comment down there. Tell us what you think. We appreciate it. See you on the next one. Bye.